Hi, it's Barry here again from Turning the Page, and just a big welcome back to another one of my vlogs, podcasts, whatever you're listening to, whatever mode. I remember many years ago how I saw someone across the room and I wanted to say hi and introduce myself to her, but the what ifs were starting to hold me back and hold me back inside my boat. What if she rejects me, ignores me, dismisses me? But I stepped out on the water and walked. I stepped out of my boat of fears and walked on the water and said hi. And we've been married now for 34 years. We all have a little boat of beliefs about how life runs, don't we? We have shaped and sculptured our brain according to certain beliefs, certain ways we think, and we act in accordance with that. But the boat, sometimes can become really cramped and like an old jacket that doesn't quite fit anymore, and it just now feels really constricted and tight. And look, there is something difficult about change. There is a leaving behind what was once helpful and useful for that moment, and then trying something new. I'm reminded of the Bible story of Abraham and leaving his family and his friends to go to another land. And it wasn't a farewell and see you next Christmas. It was a departure from the known into the complete unknown. And my question is, what is your boat? What are the things that, the beliefs that you have held and cherished and kept you supposedly safe? Here, some of them may be. If I'm in control, everything will be okay. God loves me, but it's conditional on doing the right thing and following the rules. My opinion has no worth. I am unlovable. If it's going to be, then it's up to me. One thing I've noticed is that Spirit, Holy, doesn't believe these things, and because of the nature of love, there is a mission of redemption going on. It's like watching a child who early in life decides that they're going to walk backwards for the rest of their life. Okay? I've never seen it happen, but just imagine that a child decides, I'm going to walk backwards everywhere. Now, that's not how it's supposed to be. So a caring parent actually helps them to walk forwards, and then life is just so much easier. And we pick up these wrong, faulty thinkings, and that keep us sort of going backwards. But Spirit, I believe, wants us to change and to move forward. Rob Bell says this: Spirit often exposes the assumptions we've been living with that we haven't been aware of. Spirit is on a mission to draw you to walk forwards. Sometimes we've accepted rules and codes and limits without realizing it, and then Spirit blows in and exposes those assumptions, showing us how limited we've been, what we haven't seen. We see that we don't have to accept how we can make new rules. Spirit often reveals the ways in which we have ever so subtly submitted to the belief that this is just how it is. Spirit refuses to accept that this is just how it is, because Spirit is inherently creative. That's from Rob Bell, Everything is Spiritual. But then there's the water, the unknown, the what ifs, the instability of the rocking the boat, the fear of drowning in whatever is under the surface. The story of Jesus' friend Peter walking on the water, it's so familiar to many of us who've read the Bible. But it's got some wonderful images, and I'd just like to read it to you. As soon as the meal was finished, he insisted that the disciples get in the boat and go ahead to the other side while he dismissed the people. With the crowd dispersed, he climbed the mountain so he could get by himself and pray. And he stayed there alone late into the night. Meanwhile, the boat was far out to sea when the wind came up and against them, and they were battered by the waves. And about 4 o'clock in the morning, so it's pretty black, Jesus came toward them walking on the water, and they were scared out of their wits. A ghost, they cried, out in terror. But Jesus was quick to comfort them, saying, Courage, it's me. Don't be afraid. Peter, suddenly bold, said, Master, if it's really you, you call me out onto the water. He said, "Come ahead." Jumping out of the boat, Peter walked on the water to Jesus. But when he looked down at the waves churning beneath his feet, he lost his nerve and started to sink. He cried, "Master, save me." Jesus didn't hesitate. He reached down, grabbed his hand, then he said, "Faint heart, what got into you?" The two of them climbed into the boat, and the wind died down. The disciples in the boat, having watched the whole thing, worshipped Jesus, saying, "This is it. You are God's son for sure." I wonder what it was that enticed Peter to be so bold and reckless to step out of the boat. I think it was a desire to be with Jesus, that sense of witness, that close physical contact, that delight of being with the Christ. There was an allurement that maybe only a few of the disciples truly smelt. I want to take you to the desert now, opposite to the water. Look, one of my favourite biblical passages talks about God alluring us into the desert. It's in Hosea 2. It says, "Therefore, now I'm going to allure her," which he was talking about Israel. "I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her." Look, have you ever thought of God as being a romantic lover? One that is powerfully and mysteriously attractive or fascinating. And there's a tender, unconditional, overflowing love. I look at the boat of my tightly held beliefs and fears and what-ifs, and there is an allurement of a God that walks on waves. And Jesus says, "Come, focus on me, focus on the author of truth." That's what he's saying to us. In little ways, we can actually train our brain with toes on the water experiences. Can I dare to believe that I have value? Can I trust my intuition? Can I let go of some control that I've exerted over others? You see, it all starts by training the mind to rest or dwell on truth. The brain will take its shape, its neural shaping, from what you have given it to mould itself upon. As Rick Hanson says, the brain takes its shape from whatever the mind rests upon. So, like when I think of that little quote, I envision my brain, that physical structure between my ears, being like clay, soft and putty and pliable plastic, and I place it on some type of pattern. And perhaps it's the pattern of the cross or an open, empty tomb, and then the brain sort of moulding its neural networks around it. The brain's neural networks take on the very shape and nature of what it has been resting on. It leaves its mark. My thinking compass, a daily discipline and exercise, slowly and surely rewires my thinking, and it's something that I dwell on. I'd like you to try it, and perhaps creating your very own thinking compass, and I've got links in the blog, might be the first toe on the water experience. I love this title of this book by John Ortberg. It says, this great title, it says, "If you want to walk on water, you have to get out of the boat." Look, and then after many daily readings of my thinking compass, of your thinking compass, you might just begin to notice that things have changed. You're seeing things slightly differently. The boat is still there, but you've left it without even knowing it. You're walking on water, and you might just begin to dance. Here's some quotes. Dave Riddell says that like faded paintings on the wall that one never sees because they've always been there, so are the assumptions we've made that govern our lives. Assumptions are what makes the world go round, but they also can create hell on earth until they're exposed and carefully examined. And the most effective way to dissolve our self-doubt over the long term is to pick a phrase that resonates with you and repeat it many, many times throughout the day. That's from Lawrence Appella. The decision to grow always involves a choice between risk and comfort. This means that to be a follower of Jesus, you must renounce comfort as the ultimate value of your life. John Ortberg. The key to growing any psychological resource, including compassion, is to have repeated experiences of it that get get turned into lasting changes in our neural structure or function. Rick Hansen. Here's some questions. Number one, where is spirit nudging you to step out of the boat? Number two, what is a little phrase that you can set on autopilot for your brain to dwell on? Could it be that I am loved? What would it be like to see, feel, taste, and become overwhelmingly intoxicated with the allurement of Christ? Would you seemingly forget about the water and just start walking? Hey, I hope you found this helpful, and I want to ask that you may think about the little steps that you need to take to break out of the boat that you're in. That's the constricting boat. The little tiny steps that you can take. And I just want to thank you for watching or listening, and I do pray that this is helpful to you. And if you want to email me, I'd love to hear from you. It's barry@turningthepage.co.nz. And just another big shout out and thank you to all those people who support me on Patreon or other ways. If you want to know more, come to turningthepage.co.nz/support. And looking forward to hearing from you, and I hope you enjoy this, and may you step out of the boat this week. Okay, thanks, bye.